Tonight on Coronation Street Update, a ruthless businessman walks into Weatherfield, and suddenly, two of Coronation Street's most dangerous women are on a collision course. Leanne Battersby, Tracy Barlow, and a man ambitious enough to play them both. This isn't romance anymore. This is psychological warfare. And by the time the dust settles, someone could lose everything. Welcome back to Coronation Street Update, the home of explosive Corrie spoilers, emotional deep dives, hidden clues, and dramatic fan theories that reveal what's really happening beneath the surface of Weatherfield. And tonight's storyline feels different. Bigger, sharper, far more dangerous. Because this isn't built around grief or sympathy. This is about power, manipulation, ego, control. And one man may have just triggered the most explosive female rivalry Coronation Street has seen in years. Leanne Battersby has survived almost everything the cobbles could throw at her. Loss, addiction, infidelity, public humiliation, the devastating death of her son Oliver. Over the years, viewers have watched her transform from rebellious chaos into hardened survival. And that transformation matters. Because Leanne isn't weak anymore. She's strategic. She's emotionally battle-scarred. And that's exactly why Idris is such a dangerous match for her. The moment he arrived in Weatherfield, something shifted. Not emotionally. Energetically. The atmosphere changed. Because Idris isn't being introduced as some charming fairy tale romance. He's calculated. Smooth. Ambitious. Morally flexible. The kind of man who walks into a room already studying everybody's weaknesses. And that's when things take a darker turn. Because Idris's attention isn't focused solely on Leanne. Not even close. Hovering around the edges of this dangerous new romance is Tracy Barlow. And that changes the entire balance of power. Because Tracy doesn't lose gracefully. She destroys. And viewers know exactly what happens when Tracy feels challenged, humiliated, or replaced. Especially by another strong woman. What begins as flirtation could rapidly spiral into emotional bloodsport. And honestly, that may be exactly what Idris wants. Because there's something deeply unsettling about the way this love triangle is forming. Too precise. Too convenient. Too combustible. It almost feels engineered. As though Idris understands that conflict itself gives him power. The more Leanne and Tracy compete, the more attention he gains. The more emotional leverage he controls. And that creates an incredibly dangerous dynamic. Because both women are used to dominating situations. Neither likes vulnerability. Neither likes surrender. Neither tolerates disrespect. Which means this storyline isn't heading toward heartbreak alone. It's heading toward war. But then everything changes. Because beneath the romance storyline lies something even more fascinating. Leanne's desperation to reclaim herself. Not through grief. Not through healing. Through reinvention. That's the psychological core of this entire storyline. After years of tragedy, Leanne doesn't just want affection. She wants to feel powerful again. Desired again. Dangerous again. Alive again. And Idris represents that temptation. He's exciting. Unpredictable. Potentially toxic. The kind of relationship that feels thrilling precisely because it's unstable. And that makes this storyline emotionally explosive in a completely different way. This isn't about fragile loneliness. It's about adrenaline. Impulse. Pride. Emotional addiction. The terrifying possibility that Leanne may knowingly walk into disaster, because disaster feels more exciting than safety. And that psychological shift completely changes the stakes. Because viewers may start asking a brutal question. Is Leanne actually being manipulated? Or is she choosing chaos? And what happens next is devastating. Because Tracy Barlow is not the kind of woman who quietly steps aside. If she believes Idris is choosing Leanne over her, the retaliation could become nuclear. Public humiliation. Psychological games. Calculated revenge. Tracy has spent years mastering emotional combat. And unlike Leanne, Tracy often weaponizes cruelty with terrifying precision. Which means Idris may have accidentally unleashed forces he cannot control. Or worse, maybe he enjoys it. That possibility feels chilling. Because morally ambiguous men in soap operas rarely seek peace. They seek dominance, attention, validation, influence. And Idris appears to understand exactly how to provoke emotional chaos while keeping his own hands clean. That's what makes him so dangerous. Not rage. Control. And Coronation Street writers know audiences are addicted to characters like this. Characters viewers simultaneously hate, fear, and desperately want more of. Because chaos creates conversation. And this storyline is already engineered for maximum explosion. Every glance matters. Every insult matters. Every public interaction becomes a power play. Even ordinary scenes suddenly feel loaded with danger. A drink at the bistro becomes a battlefield. A conversation becomes manipulation. A smile becomes strategy. That's the brilliance of this setup. It transforms domestic drama into psychological combat. But that may not be the whole truth. Because there's another layer emerging underneath all of this. The possibility that Idris isn't emotionally invested in either woman at all. What if this has never been about romance? What if Leanne and Tracy are simply gateways? To business, to influence, to status, to social positioning inside Weatherfield. Because ambitious men in Coronation Street rarely arrive without hidden agendas. And if Idris is truly operating in ethical gray areas, then this triangle could become far more destructive than viewers currently realize. Especially if financial manipulation enters the storyline, or betrayal, or exposure. And suddenly the stakes become enormous. Because Leanne and Tracy are not ordinary characters. They're legacy figures. Women with decades of emotional history behind them. Women viewers feel deeply connected to. Which means audiences won't simply watch this rivalry. They'll take sides. And that's exactly why this storyline could dominate social media for months. Team Leanne, Team Tracy, or Team Nobody. Because in this kind of emotional battlefield, everybody gets hurt eventually. And the most explosive part? The writers appear fully aware of that. This feels less like a romance storyline, and more like a slow-motion car crash viewers cannot stop watching. One built entirely on ego, temptation, pride, and emotional recklessness. And if Idris underestimates either of these women, he may become the very first casualty of his own game. Because Weatherfield has destroyed men like him before. But maybe never this publicly. As the storyline accelerates, expect alliances to fracture. Expect humiliations. Explosive confrontations. Power reversals. Public betrayals. And possibly one shocking moment that changes the entire balance overnight. Because Coronation Street is no longer asking whether this romance will survive. It's asking who will still be standing after the fallout. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Coronation Street Update for daily Corrie spoilers, emotional analysis, hidden storyline clues, and explosive theories you won't find anywhere else. Guys, trust me, this triangle is only getting more dangerous.